On the edge of Willowmere, where fog drifts like half-remembered dreams and the water mirrors the moods of the moon, there once lived a man known only as the Lantern Keeper. Those who passed through the quiet town rarely knew his name, but everyone had seen the warm glow of his lantern drifting along the shore long after the rest of the world had fallen asleep. Some said he guarded the lake, others said he guarded the souls who wandered near it, and a few whispered that he was guarding something within himself, something too heavy to let go, yet too sacred to forget. Every evening, when the sky softened into the violet hush of dusk, the Lantern Keeper lit his old brass lantern with hands that trembled not from age, but from memory. The flame flickered to life like a tiny sun, and with it, the air around him shifted, gentler, calmer, as though time itself bowed its head to the light. He would walk along the willow-lined path, the grass brushing against his boots, the branches swaying like slow dancers, bowing in greeting. And each night, without fail, he paused at the same stone bench near the curve of the lake. The bench meant little to most, but to him it was a shrine, quiet, weathered, patient, a keeper of stories that could not speak for themselves. He would rest his lantern beside him, the golden glow spreading across the lake's dark, glassy surface, and then he would speak, softly, as though telling the night a secret. These weren't the grand stories of heroes or kings. No, his stories were stitched from whispers, memories, and moments so small they could slip through a careless hand, yet powerful enough to shape a life. He talked of the scent of rain on old wood, the way laughter lingers in the corners of a house after those who made it have gone, and the tender ache that comes when you remember a voice you can no longer hear. Tonight, as the moon hung full above Willowmere round, and luminous like an old friend smiling from afar, the Lantern Keeper felt a familiar weight settle onto his chest. He placed a hand over his heart, not in pain, but in remembrance. She always loved the full moon, he whispered to himself, said it looked like a lantern hung in the sky by someone who never wanted us to lose our way. The memory rose slowly within him, gentle as a tide, a woman with soft eyes and a laugh that fluttered like the wings of small birds, a woman who walked beside him on this very path, barefoot, fearless, alive. She had been the warmth of summer wrapped in a shawl of winter calm. She believed that every soul carried a flame, and that some flames, no matter how small, could guide entire lives out of darkness. He remembered her hair catching the moonlight, the way she'd tuck her hand into his arm, the way she'd say, "Hold the lantern higher. The world is kinder when we can see where we're going." Years ago, one stormy night, she wandered too far along the lake while gathering herbs. A fierce wind rose, the rain fell like sheets of broken glass, and the world blurred into a storm of shadows. He ran with the lantern high, calling her name into the heavy dark, but the storm swallowed his voice, and by morning, when the lake had calmed, only her basket was found floating near the reeds. Since that day, the Lantern Keeper had walked ashore each night, his lantern lit not for the living, but for the love he had lost and the hope that somehow his light might still find her wandering spirit and guide it home. As he sat on the bench, the lantern's glow shimmering on the lake like melted stars, he felt the wind shift. It carried with it the scent of jasmine, her favorite flower. It wasn't jasmine season in Willowmere. It shouldn't have been possible. And yet, the fragrance curled gently through the air, soft as a touch. The Lantern Keeper closed his eyes, letting the memory surround him. He could almost feel her beside him again, her presence warm and familiar. "If you can hear me," he murmured into the night, "know that I still walk with you. Every step, every breath, every flame I light carries your name." A faint ripple stirred the water, then another, as though something unseen moved beneath the surface. The lantern's glow brightened, stretching out farther across the lake, reaching toward the ripples as if answering a silent call. The keeper leaned forward, breath trembling, that same tremble, the one he had felt the first time he saw her, standing at the market with a smile shy as dawn, the tremble of something wonderful and terrifying at once. And then he saw it, the faintest silhouette rising from the water, as though woven from moonlight and fog, not solid, not fully formed, but unmistakably her. Her figure glowed pale blue, soft as a dream. Her hair floated around her like drifting silver threads. Her eyes, gentle, luminous, held the sorrow of lost years and the warmth of a love still alive. He did not dare blink. The world felt suddenly sacred. She raised her hand, slow and graceful, and pointed to the lantern beside him. The flame danced brighter, lifting into a tall, steady glow as if strengthened by her presence. "I've held the light," he whispered, voice cracking with emotion. "I've held it for you all these years." Her lips curved into the faintest smile, a smile, both grateful and aching. She placed a hand over her heart, and though her form wavered like ripples of silver mist, her meaning flowed through the air with the clarity of a bell. She had not been lost, not truly. She had walked with him in the silence, in the memories, in the spaces between his breaths. And now, drawn by years of love and light, she had come to him once more, not to stay, but to speak the unspoken. The Lantern Keeper felt tears gather in his eyes. "I would give anything," he whispered, "for just one more moment with you as you were but." The spirit gently shook her head, as though telling him he had already been given that moment every night he walked the path. Every time he lit the lantern, every prayer he whispered into the wind. She reached out her shimmering hand and touched the lantern's flame. It did not burn her. Instead, the flame shifted color, turning a warm, soft blue, the color of old love, eternal and unbroken. And then, with a gesture tender as snowfall, she pointed toward the path behind him, a path shadowed by willows and memories, a path that still waited for him to walk it with a heart unburdened. A realization washed over him. She was telling him not to hold on to the sorrow, but to carry the love onward, not to stop walking, not to dim his light. Her form began to fade, dissolving into moonlit mist. But before she vanished, she placed a final whisper in the air, silent, but felt like a warm hand over his own. And then she was gone. The lake grew still. The jasmine scent faded. The night returned to its usual quiet, yet somehow it felt newly born. The Lantern Keeper remained on the bench, breathing slowly, letting the moments settle deep within him. The blue flame inside the lantern flickered gently, steady, calm, a flame touched by memory, blessed by love, and carried by time. He rose with new steadiness in his legs. The sorrow that once weighed upon him now felt different, lighter, like a cloak worn for warmth rather than a chain carried in grief. He lifted the lantern high, its blue glow drifting across the lake shore. In that light, the willows seemed to bow, the water seemed to shimmer, and the world seemed to listen. "For you," he whispered, "I will keep this lantern burning. For others who wander through their darkness, I will keep it high. And for myself, I will walk forward." As he took his first steps down the path, the wind picked up gently, brushing the leaves in a soft chorus that sounded almost like her laughter, light, distant, eternal dot. And so the Lantern Keeper of Willowmere continued his nightly walks, not as a man mourning a loss, but as a soul carrying a love that time could not dim, a love that became a lantern that became a legacy that lit the path for countless others who wandered in their own quiet nights, seeking a reminder that even in darkness, some lights never fade, and somewhere in the hush between the stars and the water, a gentle whisper lingered, a whisper shaped like gratitude, like memory, like love returning home.